Hello everyone, welcome back to my Game Grid Circuit toy box. I'm here with Cora, and today I'm going to finish the build exercise for this toy box. And I want to start here at the bridge by placing a few terrain pieces that I forgot to place last time. So we're going to begin with this long, tiny terrain block, and I need to put the structure underneath the bridge here that holds it up. And I'm going to put this with the right edge of this block centered underneath the bridge like this and right up against the ramp that goes back down. So we're going to put one there and one there. And then on the other side we want to mirror this, but we have a wider area over there. So you'll notice the block there. If we move this out, the left edge of that block that I put down earlier comes to the first bridge support. So if we line this up with this one and bring this over, that'll line up with the bridge support there, and we're going to take it right up next to on the left edge to that ramp that leads up to here. So we'll put that down and put a second one over there. So that gives you a little bit of a tunnel going underneath the bridge and kind of makes sense as to the fact that it's up there. It's not just floating in the air. So I like that. Alright, at this point all I have left to do is to add the buildings and the plants, but that's going to take a while, and you don't need to watch me place each and every one of these, so I'm going to do that offline, and then I'll come back and do a quick flyover so you can see exactly which pieces I used and where I placed them. Okay, I'm back and I'm done placing everything, so let me do a quick flyover for those of you who are building this toy box for yourselves so you can see what I've done, and then I'll style the plant clusters and wrap up this video. And as always, feel free to pause this video at any time so you can see exactly what pieces I've used and how they're positioned and oriented. And for those of you who aren't watching, who aren't building this toy box on your own, you can just kind of fast forward to the end result. But we're going to start here where the Tron core will sit, and I've placed some plant clusters here. And again, these are out of the plants drawer, the first 9 pieces. And they're overlapping that seam a little bit to try to hide that. And then on this side we have a row of these up until we hit the plant cluster, or the rocks there. That's right up against these, that plant. A couple more plant clusters. Another plant cluster here, and then I've positioned a couple of towers here on either side. This is from Building Sets Group 5, the Coruscant Building D. That's from the Twilight of the Republic playset. There's one on each side. And I got the same plant cluster mirrored on the other side. So that's what we have here, and then a group of 4 of these centered in this Y area. Alright, up at the tunnels, I've placed these gates. If I pick that up, you'll see that's the sensor switch that's out of the Gameplay Toys drawer. And if I hit ZL, it just tells you things go on and off when you go through that doorway. I'm not using the logic part of this toy, I'm just using it for decoration. And I've got one on the entrance of each entrance and another on the back side coming out of the tunnel. And I've also got a couple of these plants under here, one on either side of the track, kind of centered in this area. And in order to place this, you'll have to style it. I changed the style back so you can see which piece I used, but to get it in here, you'll have to style it first and then drag it in and drop it. Proceeding along, underneath the tunnel, I have placed a bunch of these pieces. These are from the Tomorrowland Power Disc pack. When you use that pack and put the piece down on the base, the power disc down on the base, it unlocks all of these futuristic pieces in building sets group 2. And so I've placed a bunch of these kind of equally spaced here along the edge. And just basically, because it's so dark under here, so when you're going through the tunnel, it feels like you're moving along. You don't have just the ceiling scenery up above passing by. You have these passing, and it just kind of helps the feel of speed. And then I placed one of these on either side of the track at the exit. And again, with these plant clusters over here, you'll have to style these first to get them underneath the track. But those are the pieces that you'll need. In the upper track, I've got 2 of these pieces here that I've placed. These are from Building Sets Group 5. They're the Nomancian Wand Holder from the Toy Box Takeover playset. And if you don't have that playset, or that Toy Box game rather, any kind of object will do. You just want to be able to have something under here so the player doesn't just drive straight through and avoid that hole altogether. You want to have them be forced to go around that and come out here and then have to avoid the hole. And then over here, a couple of plant clusters on either side, mirrored. We have a couple of plant clusters here that are mirrored on either side. And I got 3 on this side because I needed an extra one. This side doesn't extend quite as far. And then we have a couple more Coruscant buildings on the end here. And I kind of put those there to try to encourage the players to stay on the track over the middle area. Obviously the vehicle weapon generators that we put down here next time will help ensure that too, but keep them from driving off this end or being tempted to. Although if they did, they would just miss the weapon generators. And so that's it for this stretch. And then as you come around the turn and up into the city, I've got a couple of plant clusters here on either side of the block as you enter. And then I've placed a bunch of buildings. And I'll give you a slow flyover here so you can kind of see where they're placed. And you'll notice I've left a lot of empty space behind them over here and over here. You don't have to fill this completely with buildings because the player's never going to see those. Just the front buildings as they're driving through is enough to give the idea that you've got a huge city here. And that's sufficient, but these are all Coruscant buildings from the Twilight of the Republic playset. The colors and the shading and the holographic effects and lighting and everything on those just matches perfectly with the Tron theme, so they look really good. You can see what I've placed and where. Again, which buildings you place and exactly where you put them doesn't really matter. One thing you do want to do is plug this section here full of buildings if you can, or as full, to discourage the player from driving through this area and bypassing the loop and the bridge. And then we've got the Jedi Temple here that covers up the big hole underneath. A few more plant clusters over here along the edge of the terrain. And then across the bridge. And I didn't put any on the outside edge because I figure you don't really need them. You've got that nice skybox out there, so just enjoy that. Get up here a little high again so you can see what we've got. And then a couple of buildings here to encourage the player to follow the track and move to the right. Once again, you'll see I've lined the building or the street here with buildings. This whole area back here is empty. And if you watched my playthrough videos, you probably didn't even notice that. So that's why we don't need to waste the memory filling that with buildings. I did put one plant cluster down here. That turns into a billboard, as you'll see in a bit. And then a few plant clusters out here. Dex's Diner. That just fits the Tron theme pretty nicely, with the neon above it and everything. A couple of plants there. Some more buildings along over here. A couple plant clusters. I put my starting pad out over here. Moved that to this point. Excuse me, with a light runner in front of it. You could put down 2 of those if you wanted for 2 players. This building here kind of covers up that hole that's there. And then on this side, some more plant clusters all the way down. Some of these droid factory pieces up here. And just so you can see how these are oriented. This one is centered right over the middle of the track below. And then another piece down here. Spin that around so you can see it. A couple more skyscrapers there. And then we hit the deck down below. And out over this way, there's really not a lot that I've done down along here. The rocks are sufficient. I have not added any plant clusters along here at all. When you get to the power station, though, here I have added some pieces from the droid factory, the Geonosis droid factory from Twilight of the Republic. So we have these 2 pieces on either side of the track. And then these pieces just kind of look like generators to me. So I've got those lined up, 3 on that side, 3 on that side. And I've placed a building out over here, which hides the hole in the terrain. And by the way, I've took out those 3 blocky pieces I put here before. I moved this over and this one, and I ended up putting in some of these long thin pieces under here. I probably didn't even need that one, except to make it fill in the hole from underneath. So now if you do happen to fall underneath the track, there's really not as much holes under here. Alright, coming out this way, there's one plant cluster sitting out over here. And that is it on this end of the toy box. And so that's pretty much everything. There's no plant clusters along here. You don't really need them. So now let's go ahead and style these. And we'll open the styling menu. I've got the power disc down. So we'll come over to the left to the Tron Terrain 2 from the power disc. I am going to theme all. Almost all of these pieces will use this theme. You can see it's updating this everywhere in the toy box. The only ones I'm going to change are these pieces here in the middle, so we'll theme these, and I'm actually going to use the Tron rounded corner for these. This creates a nice little ramp that's easy to drive up and over. So the player has that option if they want to take it. But there we go. That's what the final city looks like. Oh, and I forgot to mention, we have some of these pieces up here around the base of the tower. And then the tower itself is the huge tower from Tomorrowland. And that's sitting centered right on top of the big block there. That's where I placed that. And it's actually sitting back just a little bit. So it's not perfectly centered in that direction. It is centered this way so that it's centered over the road below. So as you're approaching the city from the Outlands, you just see this massive tower up here. And I really like the look of that. But that's what all of the pieces get styled to. Lights over here. Lights back over there. The lone terrain piece, plant piece out here turns into a billboard. So that looks pretty good down there. And you got the billboard over by the starting line. And with that, the build exercise for this toy box is done. Next time, I'll add in all the track features and completely finish this course. I think I can do that in one video because the logic is pretty easy to hook up for all of the features on this course, and some of them don't require any logic at all. Before I sign off, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done that and you like Disney Infinity. Just click my photo in the lower right corner. You can also follow me on my blog because sometimes I post things there that you won't see here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.